Ooh, now here's a map that we don't get a chance to look at all too often. I'm excited to see exactly what goes down on today's match, featuring Colorado version 2.1, I think. Yeah, Colorado. It's a very strange map. It's got this big winding river that has these 4 twin peaks or double twin peaks. Very, very interesting map. Never get to see this in the 8v8 format. This should be a whole lot of fun. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Brightworks, where today, spawning on the front line as our Cortex commander in blue, it's gonna be Reetsweet going up against Jawsmunch. Jawsmunch in red right here is an Armada commander. We've got our commander colors kind of swapped right here. Usually Cortex is red and Armada is blue, but hey, what can you do? Jawsmunch gonna be opening with a couple of bots right here. Looks like Reetsweet gonna be opening for bots as well. All right, we've got the stage set. And I have a special request for you. Yes, you, I'm pointing at you through your monitor. I want you to dislike this video. Yeah, that's right. You heard me correctly. I want you to dislike this video. I'm curious because, as I'm sure you've heard from every YouTuber under the sun, dislikes and likes are apparently the same thing. They all drive quote-unquote engagement with the video. And I'm frankly a little bit curious to see exactly what that means. So take a second or two while the match is still calm right here before the early game really kicks off to hit the dislike button. And I'll let you know how that goes, at least by the very next video. Yeah, thanks a ton. Anyways, getting back into the match right here, the reason we don't see Colorado very often in the 8v8 is because it's not really built for 8v8. Yeah, there's not particularly any 8v8, or not particularly 8 spawning positions here. You can kind of see where Neread, the Lavender commander, has spawned right here. It's a little bit awkward because you end up kind of stealing a mechs from Despectro over here. Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one. Usually on this map, what we see is someone will spawn in the back with the air player. You'll spawn in the back with the air player. I guess there is 8 spawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, no, it's 8. It's... No. Oh, yeah. No, there isn't. Okay. The 2 pink commanders confusing me over here. I was like, wait a second. How is there 7 commanders over here? No, these are 2 commanders. Yeah, so there's 7 spawns on Colorado, which makes it a little bit strange. So usually what we see, at least out of the pros when they play this, is that they'll go ahead and spawn with the air player and force out a transport really, really quickly to get up on top of one of these mountains. Now, obviously, these mountains that are facing your team, for the red team, it's going to be this one and this southern one right here, and of course, opposite for the blue. Those ones are really difficult to hold, so if you can actually put someone on that mountain, get a lab set up, and start producing units and sending them down the hills and into the bases of the enemy, that can be a really easy way to gain a strategic advantage, a positional advantage over the enemy, but oftentimes it's really hard to maintain that, especially once multiple players worth of force starts to apply against you. It can be really tricky to manage to keep all that alive. That is to say that it's risky to move your commander up there because you never know if an early 2 fighters might snag the transport or something like that, ending up picking you off and sending you back to the Stone Ages. But this is definitely a different approach, a slower approach, I would say, from most of these players here. Probably going to go into an air lab. Interesting. All right, well, we've got the hot pink commander going into a split laboratory situation here. Okay. We are abandoning the project. Want to note that there's, yeah, about 500 metal worth of, well, metal in that air lab. We don't really want to waste it. We either need to reclaim it or we need to continue building that lab. There we go. Looks like we're going to continue production right here for the time being. I'm not sure if this was meant to be a communism build or maybe Elite and GAN is going to be working together. Maybe we're going to try and get a transport out a little bit later into the match right here. Definitely very strange. Fighters have come across right here and sniped 3PM's constructor, his air constructor. That's actually really annoying. Those air constructors are expensive. 3,000 energy is really the major expense that you're pushing when you're going for those constructors. So it is really, really nice to get a pick off for that. It did cost 2 fighters, of course, which also cost about 3,000 energy. But the fighter, of course, is going to be much less versatile than the constructor will be. Pawns running across the map right here from a Xeon, trying to find an opening. Big Booty Ho, that's with no E, by the way, for monetization purposes. If Big YouTube is listening, by the way, that's no E means this is a gardening implement that we're discussing here. Otherwise, for the rest of this match to be referred to as the Seafoam Green Commander, going to be going ahead and taking a little bit of damage here. Commander was in position to intercept these, but it was building an LLT and couldn't really look away from the construction, so a couple of those pawns do make it into the backline. At this point, that is becoming a serious issue. They've taken down 2 metal extractors, and I think may be able to snag a 3rd one. Depends on the micro here. You know what? Our big bootied Seafoam Green friend right here will lose another metal extractor. Okay. 2 pawns for 3 metal extractors. Certainly worth it. Certainly, definitely worth it. is Zeon going to be capturing this high ground here as well. And once you have this high ground, it means gauntlets. It means agitators. It means that T1 long-range artillery. It's rare that you have a map that it is definitively better to go for some of those T1 artillery essentially as quickly as you can. This is certainly one of those maps. Because you have such a weird high ground position right here, when you start to go for any of those long-range plasma guns, you're going to find yourself in a really dominating position if you can fire those away into the backline of the enemy here. You can imagine, I mean, here, we can actually play pretend right here. If we were to put a gauntlet up here on this hillside, well, okay, maybe not into the backline right here, but certainly could deny a wide range of metal extractors as well as sniping any units that dare to march too far forward. Gunship up in the air, okay. You know, I've been bashing on the Banshees recently, and it feels like almost in retaliation to that. It feels like more and more people are building those. I wonder if they were changed or had some sort of update that makes them much more viable, because they have never really been a very viable source of anything in my book. They don't have a lot of HP, they don't do tremendous damage. They're kind of just meh. One Centurion goes down right here, the other two will walk away. Those beefy meatballs gonna be waddling their shoulder plates forward right here, trying to keep their lasers aligned on the enemy as best that they can. Need a resbot immediately. Ooh, nice pick off right there. Oh, it wasn't, wait, what just happened? Why don't we jump back real quick and take a look at what just happened right there. We're about 30 seconds back, and I see exactly what happened here. A couple of fighters spotted Robot Robert 03 in the air in a transport, managed to dive on top of it. Excellent little bit of micro right there from 3 p.m. Means that that transport is going to go down. Now, that is essentially going to feed Reed Sweet a whole bunch of metal right here. Maybe going to eventually mean, or essentially mean, a T2 transition. Delivery, yeah. So that's interesting. I suppose the commander pickoff is nice, but these resbots are going to be eager to eat up that metal, and that means that Reed Sweet has got to feel comfortable going for a T2. Indeed, making it so, putting down the T2 lab here and immediately dumping metal into it. That commander will only pay for about half of this lab, but eating up the T1 lab and maybe a couple of T1 forces on the front will essentially pay for the rest of it. Definitely a very, very early jump into T2 right here. Nobody else on the field is ready for T2 at this stage in the game. We are, yeah, no T2, not in the backlines, not anywhere on the map. I'm just zipping around right here trying to see. This is the earliest T2 we've got. We do also have T2 coming up from Dispectro, who had the luxury of sitting behind the Lavender Commander, which meant that they didn't have to contribute too many forces to the front. We do have a few up here, which I like to see, but we didn't have to sink that crazy resource cost into Rocketeers or Centurions or Thugs, Maces, any of that sort of stuff. So that justifies this T2 transition as well here. We do need to eat up this T1 lab, though. We've run out of metal right now for the Cyan Commander, so we definitely need to start looking into exploding the Commander or eating up the T1 lab. The T1 lab will finish this, but you won't have metal for a Constructor. The Commander, you will finish this and have a little bit left over for the Constructor. Don't think we need any more wind turbines. We already have the Geothermal. Dispectro misprioritizing the metal spending right here just ever so slightly. This is a big Centurion ball. Yeah, you know what? The mass Centurion investment. Josmuch going for a little bit of a power play, I suppose. Waddling the meatballs forward. Centurions do beat commanders. Actually, you can beat a commander with relatively few Centurion. Oh, no. Nariad. You got to dive or you got to duck. But you can't choose both. Nariad now in a lot of trouble. Centurion's outranging the commander, blasting it to smithereens, and boom goes Nariad's Lavender Commander right there on top of that hill. The Centurion were an elite hit squad, and they did manage to blast it to smithereens. Wow. All right, maybe Centurion coming in clutch right here. Rare that we see Centurion on the battlefield. Glad Josmuch is having a fun time blasting away with them. I feel like they're so hard to get value with, but it's hard to beat the value of taking down a commander like that, essentially within your region of control. I believe this is the bread and butter for Centurion. I don't use them too often, so it's hard for me to say definitively, but I think they're essentially crowd control bots. In fact, yeah, they're called anti-swarm bots, so I think this is probably exactly where you want them, is dealing with pawns and grunts and that sort of thing running forward right now. The blue team trying to get a hold of this reclaim up here, but having a really hard time. The Lavender player ran out of forces right there. Of course, the Cyan Commander is still going for tech in the backline here, so not going to be much support either. Rocketeers blasting down this lone pawn sitting up here on this high ground. We need to get a resbot up there immediately. Oh, Josmuch has one. It's sitting right here. If this resbot can get up there, it'll be so much metal going back to the red commander right now. Nice pick right there. Manages to snipe the resbot of the enemy. Yeah, sending he doesn't want to send the resbot forward right now because he's worried that it's going to get sniped by these aggravators, which is totally fair. It needs to make its way up there, but if you lose it, then it sets you back even further. This has quickly become the point of contest for this entire match right here. Now, Reed Sweet has been on an absolute tear here, cutting off Snotgun's commander entirely. We have anti-air turrets here to deny any transport shenanigans that might come across, and Snotgun is in a lot of trouble. You could potentially sneak a transport around the northern side of this mountain here to pick up the commander, but it definitely means that you'd have to abandon this position right here. I suppose in another way of looking at this, Reed Sweet is also a little bit cut off. Yeah, I mean, these are just LLTs. Gunships. All right. Having a field day today. Feels weird to root for gunships, but I guess they're able to do a little bit of work on these hills. Work that I guess bombers would struggle with is one thing to note. Bombers definitely have a hard time going up and down the hills, especially bombing up and down the hills. Sometimes they can be a little bit wonky there. I suppose the gunships give you a little bit more precision when dealing with that sort of thing. Yeah, there they go. Taking down the anti-air turrets, the light anti-air turrets. I'm not entirely sold yet, but I'm definitely leaning towards their favor, slowly but surely. We have more than enough troops to jump on top of this right here. If these grunts march forward right here, Reed Sweet is in a whole lot of trouble. We just need to pull the trigger. Snotgun misreading this as him being trapped in here with Reed Sweet, but Reed Sweet realistically is trapped in here with him. The mace moving forward right now. Getting blasted apart by a couple of LLTs, but certainly doing some damage on its way. We have a, Arbiter coming up right now, too. Reed Sweet gonna be happy to have that under his control. Looks like Resbots did eventually get up here for the yellow commander, but interestingly, we're going for a res. You know what? Usually resing T1 units doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, but we're picking up Centurions, and they have so much HP, I really feel like it's a great decision. Yeah, we see often the Cortex commanders going for the thug grave robber push, essentially the undying army. This is just that, but even higher on steroids. We have crazy investments on the Centurions, super bulky, and then the Resbots to resol them when they inevitably fall over, or to repair them when they need it. Yeah, I like that quite a bit. This is interesting. This is definitely very interesting. We did eventually eat up this commander, so that medal went back to the red team. Means we should have a T2 transition somewhere in the works. We do not. All right, we're investing wide rather than up right now for Prodi. We have still T1, still such an investment in Centurion, my goodness. Josman's really dedicated to the Centurion, and you know what? It's totally working. It's totally working. Look at these bad boys marching forward right here. The perfect front line for pushing across into enemy lines. So much HP, so tanky, there's no way you're gonna be able to deal with them, and the D-gun is called on as the only real way to efficiently deal with those. Oh, this is so cool. Such a cool match right here. Big army in the middle of the map. This is going to be needing some sort of address here. We can't just leave this lurking in the mire. Snotgun's still in a little bit of trouble here. Wouldn't mind seeing him maybe throw up more LLTs and retreat up this high ground here. Josman just made it into the backline though. They're essentially mobile LLTs. I feel like that's a fair comparison. They're like an LLT that can fire a little bit faster and can waddle around. And to be fair, I mean, a waddling LLT sounds adorable, so why not? Yeah, there they go. Even T2 kind of struggling against them. E-converters pop. T2 Lab in a whole lot of trouble here. It does fall. Build power pops as well. Wow. Play of the game for the Centurion. Such a heavy investment. 270 metal per Centurion. I mean, that's almost 2 maces. Just comparing price points. But they've done so much work this match entirely. I mean, what does a Hound do to one of these? Yeah, it looks like about 12%. More or less. Commander goes down over here as the Zeon's forces march forward. I am a little bit stunned, a little bit at a loss for words right here. The unit that I had essentially overlooked for the entire time playing Beyond Horizon apparently is great. I feel like that happens so often with these units. I did the same thing with the Bull for the longest time because I just thought, oh, it's so expensive and it looks so ugly. And then I realized how devastating it is. No more T2 units are coming out though. I think those are really the only efficient way to deal with this. You can see Big Booty here spewing out a whole bunch of these Centurions. I feel like that's a really apt description for the Centurion, right? Big Booty as all hell. Centurions to counter Centurions, but when your base has already been pushed in, countering your enemy's units with a mirror matchup, not going to be efficient no matter how you slice it. Wow, what a cool push right here. No investment into T2 whatsoever. This is just gunning for the win right here in the T1 era. We do have that long-range plasma cannon firing away right here. We are going to reclaim it, by the way. Love to see that we're reusing our metal. Going to be going for some of those advanced metal extractors. We've got tons of constructors here pumping out welders as well. T2 and T1 in combination. Ooh, Centurions versus Fiends. That's an interesting matchup as well. And they kind of get melted. They kind of get melted, which I suppose shouldn't be surprising. But they do fare decently. That was a lot of Fiends sent forward right there. I wonder what the metal cost of that entire engagement was. Had to be about double the metal cost in Centurions. They cost 270 versus the Fiend. Yeah, maybe not double the cost. Maybe three halves the cost. 33% more of an investment than what the Blue Commander made. Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking. The Blue Commander's position is flipped on its head. Suddenly, Snotgun is actually in a great spot here. Just needs to throw some LLTs to protect the commander and then march forward with the units, and I think this is all going to be well. The one thing we can't afford to do is keep all these still so that this Arbiter has free range to blast away at them for free. If we do that, we are going to be in a lot of trouble. Pardon me. Those are T1 Banshees in the backline. Well, I will be damned. Those Banshees have managed to get so much value this game, sniping the Air Commander's entire main facility. Yeah, I guess the one counter to the Banshee would be mass fighters. The one reliable counter anyways. And suddenly we find ourselves without the ability to produce mass fighters. Wow. I guess in the right spot and at the right time, they can really, really be lethal. There they go. Purple Commander essentially wiped out of this game. We have an Eradicator up and running, and I think that'll be more than enough to take down these Banshees if they go in that direction. So they just don't go in that direction. It's a very easy calculus. I am flabbergasted, to say the very least, at the power of T1 in this match. It feels like a very standard T2 transition right here from the blue team, so to see it get dismantled so easily, so effectively by T1 spam, really makes you stop and think for a second about whether it really is worth it to go for that T2 transition, or if getting a little extra ground by putting a little heavier emphasis on your T1 army is going to be well worth it, and I think it definitely is. Banshee's continuing to ravage this backline right here. I think that qualifies screenshot material. That's just beautiful. Beautiful little gunships. I think there's a way for me to... There we go. We can track these guys around on their rampage. What heroes? Flying around in tandem. You can say, oh, well, we lost him there. Flying around in tandem, trying to blast apart whatever they can, and doing a damn good job of it. I'm really, really happy to see those Banshees having some value. That's pretty cool. A little hit squad of green forces have made it up this hillside somehow. They'll be cleaned up eventually by welders, but they have managed to pick off quite a few of these units over here. Yeah. Welders, not going to struggle too much against those thugs. Essentially the same type of unit, the same job. Those units have the same job, but in the different tech eras, right? Thugs, basically a frontline assault unit. Welders, basically a frontline assault unit. Welders, obviously quite a bit better, though. Jawsmunch does make it up to T2, by the way. We are eventually going to go into some fusion power. We're going to go ahead and pump out a single Gunslinger. No, we're going for quite a few of them. Okay. An interesting investment into quite a unconventional composition of forces. Blue Commander did eventually fall here. Actually, so did the Orange Commander. That's interesting. The Reclaim here going to a bunch of Twitchers right now for the Blue Commander, though. I'm going to go for a pop-up turret first. I would probably like to see a couple of Twin Guards since there's absolutely no units over here, but there we go. Some Sheldon to reinforce, and I think this will be all right. Blue team's still holding on. By a thread, it feels like, but still holding on nonetheless. You know what? They have the reclaim advantage as long as that Twitcher is reclaiming, as long as they're using their metal appropriately. That's one of the things, is if you don't bring any response when you assault the enemy's base, you really do leave behind quite a lot of metal, and when that goes back to the enemy, it doesn't guarantee that they'll get back into the game, but it can definitely be a pathway for them to, especially if they're allowed to greed really, really hard. This is dangerous, though. The air player has been down for some time. It means, of course, that bombers can come across the map and do tons and tons of damage. Beautiful, beautiful stuff. Now, these bombers didn't achieve all too much, but they did scout that advanced fusion reactor over here. Scouting that APHIS before it's completed means that, of course, your follow-up bombing run can be very well targeted directly onto the most explosive structure in the game that would absolutely annihilate the entire base over here for the Powder Blue Commander Hansa 11. Persecutor now firing away. Very, very dangerous static defense structure, that is. Ooh, killer bombing run, by the way. Connects with just about every single one of those Sheldon right there. As far as value goes, that's pretty much the best you're gonna hope for as an air player. Yeah, Persecutor definitely forcing the units back right here. The Persecutor crawl is real. These T2 also powerful enough to actually be put on the edge here and start firing into these bases, so I wouldn't mind seeing that. Do we have any jammers over here? We do not. Putting a jammer up in your base can definitely help. One of the effects of jammers, it's something that's not actually very well known, I feel like, is that when you have your buildings under a jammer field, anything built under a jammer field, when the enemy scouts it, they won't actually maintain that vision of it. Hold on, let me switch to a player perspective. You see how they have like a vision of like a ghost of the structure right here? If this was under a radar field when it was scouted, it won't actually maintain that structure ghost right there, like that one can see. It's really important to know because it means that the quicker you put your base under a jammer field, the harder it's going to be for instance bombing runs to connect with it. It's a really, really niche detail, but it can be certainly life-saving in a pinch. Oh, Ghost almost taken out right there by a little bit of misaligned fire. Oh, and the Ghost is blasted apart. Those hounds just firing away at a lot of these units accidentally connected with the Ghost. That's always a little bit of an unfortunality. Ending up accidentally taking out your own unit that way. A missed micro, I guess you could call it. Gunslinger on the front will be blasted apart. T2 much too good against those Gunslingers to really be worth it. Welders walking into the Centurion line. Ah, the Centurion, they're so stalwart. So stalwart. They refuse to die. And every time one of them gets knocked down, it feels like two more of them take their place. I guess once you compare them to T2, they are pretty cheap. I mean, for instance, a Gunslinger, 650 versus a Centurion measuring up to just 270. They're a good medium unit. I think they were at one point called a medium bot of some sort. Not sure if it was like a medium anti-swarm bot or whatever it was, but I think medium was once their title, and I think it fits them quite well. Laboratory blasted apart right here. Looks like our blue hero retweet has gotten a little bit aggressive on the other side of the map. Sent the Fiends forward. Yeah, our Orange Commander caught in their tech upgrade. Didn't manage to pump units out fast enough. It's the age-old problem of getting that T2 up and running, get the T2 lab and the T2 production up and running before actually having the units up and running. You need the units to defend the structures, and you need the structures to produce the units. Tricky to find the way to balance all that. Prodi in a little bit of trouble here too, and a lot of trouble I would actually dare to say. As suddenly a bunch of build power is going down. Fiends in the backline as well, being great scouting for the Sheldon. Boom! Go the commanders lying right next to each other. Oh no. And just like that, this entire facility goes up in smoke. Hornets up in the air right now for best Mat NA. And that's going to be the end of that Sheldon Bowl, to say the very least. But definitely uncomfortable here for the Pink Commanders to lose their joint communist facility here to a whole bunch of Sheldon and Fiend waddling forward. Looks like we tried for a counterattack over here. These hounds will be caught by some Fiends, blasted apart right now by Retweet. And this is why you gotta be so aggressive. Once you make that T2 transition, you have an advantage, but you lose it quickly if you don't capitalize on it. Our Seafoam Green Commander goes down right now as suddenly, not paying attention, and a couple of Rocket Spiders make their way into the main facility. T2 Lab in a whole lot of trouble right here. Welders being spammed out right now by Hansa 11. Don't mind the Welders to counter the Rocket Spiders, but of course Rocket Spiders can leverage that really unique ability to climb all over the walls in order to get into really unfortunate positions right here, like for instance exactly the backline. Gonna be tricky to navigate those Welders into position to deal with these. Luckily some Hounds gonna have the firing range to actually shoot those down, and they will be shut down eventually. Very tricky though. Once the Rocket Spiders coming out, you have to really start considering things from a different angle. Wondering where those creepy crawly spider bots will start aggressing from next. Hornets up in the sky, by the way, blasting apart these Fiends as best they can. Firing a salvo of 2 high armor piercing rounds, something like that. Yeah, armor piercing Sabo missile launcher. That's another point of confusion that a lot of people have asked me about. Comment section, Discord, all that sort of stuff. Link down below, by the way. You can oftentimes expect to hear the question, what does armor piercing mean? Does it ignore the armor of a unit? And that's a totally fair question, because in other games that's probably exactly how that would work. No, and beyond all reason, there is no armor value. Certain units take more or less damage from other units specifically, but there's no flat armor value for any sort of unit. So what an armor piercing round really means is very high damage. Yeah, that's basically it. It just does a lot of damage. And that might seem a little bit confusing, but it does It does track across all the different faces, all the different units that use that terminology, so it's fair to use. Mass Gunslinger here from Jawsmunch. What an interesting strategy. I wonder if we're going for some sort of themed build here, right? Maybe going for like Gunslingers and Centurions only to Grandmaster kind of challenge. Any Euthermal viewers, any Euthermal fans in the chat? I'm certainly a huge one. That's definitely an inspiration for sure. I would love to see somebody doing challenge runs like that, and I wonder if that's what this is. Maybe Jawsmunch with just a sincere belief in the Gunslinger, though. I've yet to see it, but also it's rare that we get to see someone spam Gunslingers out in this volume. These metal extractors down are hurting the red team quite egregiously. Energy income is slowly but surely scaling up right here for the blue team. Once that E income begins to start scaling, it transitions into a metal income. So once we start to see the first aphises come online, once we start to see the first couple of fusions coming online, that transition, that slow but steady, well, not so slow and steady, that exponential explosion of energy production immediately translates into metal as soon as we have that T2 economy up and online. So it looks like a little advantage right now, a couple hundred, maybe 1,000. It starts to compound very quickly is what I'm trying to say. We have built up a serious number of these Hornets. Airplayer has never really gotten themselves back online yet. Kind of a blunder actually from the blue team not to reinvest in their Airplayer, forcing them to rebuild from the dirt without giving them, for instance, a whole bunch of wind turbines or maybe a fusion reactor, something to jumpstart all their progress, right? Really, really easy to get back into the game if your teammates help you out. Very difficult to claw your way back from scratch. In an ideal world, you will have spent all of your metal, and by the time that your base is destroyed, you will have nothing in the bank because you'll have put it all out on the field to defend yourself, which means that if you lose all your production, you start even less than you actually started the game with, which is 1,000 metal and energy each. So viewed at it from that direction, you can see that it becomes really, really painful. And these Hornets don't have any fighter escorts. I think best Matt NA was probably getting a little bit comfortable with no air contest right now. Suddenly realized, wait a second, I actually don't have any fighters up in the air. Yeah, we need to start seeing some fighters produced. Otherwise, these T1 fighters are going to be trading out against the T2, and that is definitely not efficient. We have more gunships coming out right here. We have 2 air players, and somehow it feels like with no air player on the side of the blue team, neither of the air players are actually managing to do all too much. Glad to see the Reed Suite is investing into air right here so that the blue team has some sort of anti-air defense. Sufficient to say, though, that the blue team has been without any kind of air contest, any kind of measurable, meaningful air contest for a good, I don't know, 15 minutes or so? Maybe 8 minutes or so? Almost a lack of aggression right here, it feels like, from the red team. Jawsmunch heavily investing in fusion reactors, going for that fusion reactor build, a build I'm very fond of nowadays. Used to be very hardcore, advanced fusion reactor all the way, but I've learned that it essentially comes down to your build power, and with this much build power, I think it's safe to say that fusion reactors are the way to go. You can build them pretty quickly. They only cost 4,000 metal, which for T2 era, once you start reclaiming, once you start getting those T2 mechs, that really isn't all too much. You can throw up a new APHIS, or pardon me, a new fusion reactor every so often, and it allows you to continue scaling your economy. And of course, you can always reclaim them and then use them later on as an effective APHIS funding material. The Blizzard bombers right here, known for their hit game Overwatch 2, and others like the Heavy Impulse Warhead. Trying to find a connection right here. They want so desperately to hit that big clump of fiends, and I think they certainly could. Yeah, they're coming around for it. Oh, never mind. We're gonna go after the armed exploiter here. The advanced exploiter, pardon me. Also a good pick, because that exploiter is really, really difficult to deal with. Spybot moving forward. Ooh, okay. Not a bad connection right there. We get some of those units. Certainly allows those bombers to come back in and catch some of them as well. Yeah, Gunslinger's gonna march forward right here. All right. The march of the Gunslingers. Beautiful. Crazy heavy investment in the Gunslingers. So heavy. We're talking now 15,000 metal and growing an investment in Gunslingers. Ugh, is it worth it? I don't know. I don't know if they've gotten that much value out quite yet. Interestingly, Zayon going for a bunch of Webbers right now. I don't mind it whatsoever. If you build a bunch of those Webbers and you manage to get a big chunk of the reclaim field, they can fund another wave of Webbers, and then you can send those in. Ooh, a little bit of a snipe back here, by the way. That was the LRPC firing away. Popped the fusion reactor over here. Disrupted the economy for Hansa 11. That's quite nice. Now we're going to start targeting the APHIS. That's a huge move. We start up the plasma deflector, the Keeper here. 3,000 metal later and we'll have it, but it's going to be a good long while before the powder blue commander has that thing put down. Oh, this is dangerous. That's really dangerous. What an excellent pickoff right there from the yellow commander. Azeon has to be comfortable with that. Very satisfied with those results. The Gunslinger wall. Demawa. Is it Demawa or Demawa? Someone who speaks German can let me know down below. I'm sure my pronunciation is off, but just let me know. I'm always happy to learn about different languages and dialects and all that sort of thing. One of my favorite things about bar is just that it's so worldwide that you get to learn about all these different things. All these different approaches to total warfare. Sharpshooters here, again, sitting stagnant. The red team falling into that stagnant form of play where you just kind of keep building up forces but not really using them. If you go for that, and you don't end up eco-scaling on the back of it, your opponent will eventually just out-eco-scale you, and indeed, Reetsweet has got a fabulous eco up and running now. We have the APHIS up and running, 2 fusions as well. 2 fusions basically equals an APHIS if you eat them both up, and we have the build power to do so. Definitely what Reetsweet has built this around to do, so I'm expecting an explosion of economy over here. That's the APHIS finally popping for Hansa 11. That's the LRPC that was built up on this hillside. It means these sharpshooter have no longer any energy to fire themselves, which is really unfortunate. That's a very expensive, very useful unit, and for it to be essentially nullified by no power. Extremely nice. The advanced exploiter finally falls right here. Definitely waiting on that exploiter to fall. It also means that the EMP units right here as well. I think there's a spybot connection that shut down those Sheldon. Oh, the Gunslingers finally get the connection I think they were waiting for. Well, all right. There they go now, jumping on top of all this and finally managing to blast apart that blue army. Loads and loads of AA trucks here. They did shoot down a lot of that T2 air, but I think this position is looking worse and worse right now for Reetsweet. Suddenly the Gunslingers have found their way on top of this Persecutor up here. The LRPC likewise in a whole lot of trouble. Down it goes. These Gunslingers, these Elite 5 or so up in the fronts here that have a ton of XP, these could turn into death machines. If we can manage to micro these properly, if we can get a couple more kills with them, they're gonna start leveling up and they're gonna gain that experience, and eventually I think they'll be able to do some serious work. Big old tick wave sent across right here. Scouting more than anything else, but we'll certainly take any picks that we can find. For instance, a Archangel or 2 here and there. Maybe some E-converters, a wind turbine, and E-storage, all that good stuff. Things that ticks are good for getting into the cracks and crevices of and ruining the days of. Find a fusion reactor. Another premier target. Now we're not gonna stop them. Okay, these are scouting ticks. They're scouting ticks and they have a job and they're willing to do it. Running into the enemy base to try and figure out where their stuff is. Definitely a noble cause, a valiant cause. Love the Manticores included here. Means that we will be able to shoot down the Nuki bomber. It takes out a whole lot of these Sheldon right here, but certainly taking down that nuclear bomber removes a serious threat lingering above the heads of the blue and green commanders right here. Sheldon eventually dealt with. Gunslinger production back online. Mass hounds being spammed out by the brown commander as well. Camello Tactico, maybe the lowest true skill player on the red team, but definitely familiar with eco scaling. Has a fabulous eco of advanced fusion reactors and E-converters and all sorts of stuff right here. We have, well, maybe showing a little bit of an experience. We still have solar panels at this point. Praise and dispraise at the same exact moment, but either way, going to be more than capable of spamming out those T2 units here. Yeah, where are the fighters at? There they are. Tan player building a whole bunch of those fighters. They're up in the air, but they're still T1. We have the T2 lab. I'm surprised that we aren't building any fighters out of it. We do have high ones on the queue, but I just don't see them up in the air right now, and it means that the purple and blue commanders joined together will be able to take out most of the air wall right here for the Tan. Yeah, Tan Commander, who's essentially the only one in the air right now. The Maroon Commander has an air lab as well, but we don't have nearly as many fighters. Feels like Best Mat NA has just been going for a bunch of those Hornets and those Bombers, and they're great and all, but they are extremely hard countered, of course, by air fighters. LRPC's up on the high ground here. This orange cannon has been handed over to Snotgun, and it's just been firing away. Oh, I see. So Snotgun has just been knocked out of this game, so they've been given a big gun to point and click. Wonderful stuff right there. Yeah, we've got some E-storages handed over. So Snotgun has been given a very specific task. It's to kill things in the backline right here. Finally retargets off of the scrap of this fusion reactor, and then goes right back. There we go. Yeah, take down that T2 lab. I think that's a premier target. Mass Hound production. Very viable. We do have welders included right here from the yellow commander. I think including those is a great idea. You can see they shut down the the welders shut down the fiends and the grunts really, really nicely here. Yeah, denying them from those hounds, which they really want to sink their teeth into. And retreat away. Into the night. Like passing ships. There's a lot of opportunity paths, it feels like, right here that nobody is exploiting. This northern lane feels like it's completely empty. Feels like we could send a big ball of sprinters or some such like that into this area and do a lot of damage. Then again, I guess the northern team is having, or the northern side of the blue team is having some real issues right here. Yeah, that LRPC blasting apart these structures really hurts. Advanced Bot Lab has fallen at this point. We're gonna start taking out whatever else we can over here. Lovely stuff. Hounds up on the high ground. Happy to blast away at whatever they can reach. A little bit clustered up right now. Means that they're not going to be able to... Oh, that was a juicy connection from the Arbiter as well. Going to mean that they can't fire away perfectly efficiently, but it's not the end of the world. That Arbiter's having a field day. 26 confirmed kills on this beast of an Arbiter. Grunts continuing to spam into the lines right here. Josmuch setting up some LLTs. It's worthwhile. Defense. Ooh, LRPC continuing to fire. Over on this side. Can it fire into that base, actually? Oh, it definitely can. Yeah, it's trying to target down those E-converters over here. That's exactly the ideal target. Base explodes after enough harassment from rocket spiders up here for the yellow commander. Snotgun losing his one and only unit. The long-range plasma cannon is going to be rebuilding over here. It's worth noting, but for the time being, going to have essentially nothing to deal with all of this. That Arbiter, man. I feel like that Arbiter has killed 99% of these hounds up here. A couple of them have died to the Sheldon, but every time that Arbiter fires, it feels like it gets so much value. 33 kills. That is a gold star Arbiter right here. Firing missiles like it was a catapult. Just launching them over and over. That thing was parked there minutes ago. Like 15 minutes ago it was parked there. And it's still getting value to this moment. And the Mass Hound has finally done it. Getting aggressive on the other side of the map. I'm glad to see it. Pitbull's falling right here. The sharpshooters are eventually repowered. It means that they're going to be able to fire away. That Aphis was resurrected, which means that it now is powering all of these sharpshooters here. More than enough to power a big bundle of sharpshooters like this. 3,000 a second. Sharpshooters fire well slower than that. And that'll be deflected quite nicely. Now, if that attack had gone forward, say, 5 minutes ago, maybe 8 minutes ago, before this fusion reactor came online, I'm pretty confident that those would have swept through this entire facility, taken out this northern side, and been able to win the game. But the stall from the red team means that that will not be the case here. T3 is on the field. We have Karganeth in position right here, easily dispatching any of that T1 and some of the T2 going across over there. We have some commentation up on the northern high ground over there. Such a strange commitment to T2 here. Reedsweet, the only one that seems really comfortable going into that T3. We never actually continued eco-scaling. I'm surprised we didn't see these fusion reactors changed into a fusion, or an advanced fusion, pardon me. Yeah, we're on T3 with triple fusion production here as well, going into advanced solar panels. So strange. Such a strange economic investment right here. Oh, okay, and then we're gonna go into the advanced fusion reactor as well. If we plan to use the advanced fusion, or rather plan to use the fusions to pay for the advanced fusion, then I think that's probably a good idea. I'm just a little confused about these advanced solar panels. I'm not entirely sure what those are going to be used for. Persecutors being set up over here. You know what I think would be a lovely thing to set up over on this high ground? A lol cannon. Yeah. Setting up a Ragnarok up on this high ground right here. It would necessitate a response from the red team, but their scouting so far hasn't been phenomenal. Oh, nice shot right there. LRPC fires into the base of the red commander, the maroon commander, pardon me. Takes down a couple of build turrets right here. We'll continue to fire away at that lab. If we keep firing in this direction, though, the build power will eventually fall. Ooh, but we do have the shield generator. Nicely done. Shield generator comes up and online just in time to start deflecting a whole bunch of those attacks. Oh, flak is heavy. Flak is real heavy right here. My goodness. Yeah, that's what those bombers really struggle with, is getting up over that hill and deploying their payload. And those flak turrets just shot down thousands and thousands and thousands of metal out of the air right there for the red team. It's trades like that that really bring you back into a game like this. Sending several thousand metal flying through the skies, careening to their deaths directly into anti-air forces. That's the way that you clutch defeat from the jaws of victory. For sure. Marauder had been seen. Marauder right there, just barely spotted by the welder. They're gonna be marching their way forward here, trampling the wreckages, unfortunately. They're gonna be sent over here to deal with this, actually, this incursion of rocket spiders. Is it gonna be quick enough, though? Rocket spiders have already made it into the base. They're gonna start blowing up whatever they can. Keeper is the premier target right now, gonna take that down, re-enabling those LRPC harassments. The thing about recluses is they need only fire and forget. They don't really have to worry. Oh, big old share happening right here. Looks like the red commander is tapped out of the game. All right. Apparently unsatisfied with the way that this match is heading right now. Unhappy to see those T3, which is totally fair enough. Once those Marauder cross the battlefield, there's not a lot to stop them. I mean, the sharpshooter ball is massive if they were able to actually fire. Yeah, you can see with lack of scouting right here, the sharpshooters are just getting eviscerated. Oh, no. This definitely feels like the red team is playing as a solid concrete unit. And, pardon me, the blue team is playing as a solid concrete unit. The red team is playing like 8 individual players all trying to win the game single-handedly. Camelo Tactico, the brown commander here. Fabulous economy, no investment in T3, just spamming out more and more of the same old T2 units that we're now building a really effective counter to. I mean, we have the Starlights out to blast apart the sharpshooter. We have no radar or radar jammer bots moving forward with this. We're just hoping that blind spam can counter the enemy, and anybody who manages to put 2 seconds, if you have the time to put together a defense, it's possible to build a defense for any composition spam towards you. That's what I'm trying to say. Whether it's T2, whether it's T3, whether it's T1. Spam is never effective if you don't have a follow-up plan for it, if you don't have T3 units to follow up after it, Juggernauts, Titans, Behemoths, Thors, all that sort of stuff. You need a game plan to finish with. Best man NA. Ooh, doesn't send off the D-gun, and that means this Karganeth will continue waddling forward. One step on its 6-legged chassis forward at a time. Pitbull's here trying to clean up the rest of this mess. And they eventually will. But this is definitely becoming uncomfortable. Definitely becoming really uncomfortable here. Hey, is Aeon happy to start investing here? Glad to see that somebody's prepared to go the distance right now. Just going to start spamming out advanced fusion reactors. We need the advanced E-converters as well. Getting it all put together right now using those air constructors. I think it's the right move. I mean, I think it's the only thing you can do at this point to ensure that your team stays in the game, because the collective economy right here, well, of the red team is quite high. Wait, what? How is the red team's economy so high? I guess it's all this, yeah. The economy right here is just so much bigger because we actually have our mexes up and running, and we actually have E-converters churning away metal. That's a little bit surprising to me, yeah. Despite winning this entire southern side, doing so much damage over here, the blue team is actually at a crazy metal deficit. I was prepared to look up there and say that the blue team had taken out enough mexes right here and popped enough economy to bring it back into this game, but they are so criminally far behind. I mean, we are talking almost double the economy right here for the red team. It's the power of that eco-scaling. It only takes 1 or 2 players to really properly eco-scale in order to vastly, rapidly outgrow the enemy. And you can see that's exactly what Aeon's going for right here. We've just been able to build a whole bunch of aphises without really any contest. Here we go. This could be a problem, though. Bunch of Marauders idling their way towards the base over here. If these keep moving, they could win this game. If they stay still, they'll lose it. Again, mass hounds over here. I wonder what the total amount of hounds that Camelo Tactico has built is. The total number and also the total amount of metal in hounds. It's got to be hundreds of thousands. All that economy could have been a couple of Titans that won the game. Could have been several Razorbacks. Any number of things. Pitbull here, gonna help out with the defense. Sprinter's not terrible either. I think if we put it all into sprinters and send those across the map, that might be an effective decision too. Why aren't these moving? Ah, what a misplay right here from Des Troyes. The Marauder are so late to the party. Oh, okay, we're bringing it back. We're bringing them, we're bringing them, we're bringing them back. And it means there will be no fireball of thermonuclear explosion. I'm not sure keeping this T1 Air Lab around is quite the move. T1 Cortex fighters are quite good defensively. T1 Armada fighters are not. They're kind of just worse in every way. Not an obvious thing, but it's just one of the weird little mismatches, misalignments between the two factions. It's an intentional misalignment. I want to be clear. They're designed that way. It's not a bug or something like that. Razorback's in perfect location right here to intercept these. Not spread out very well though. Okay, Marauder just gonna stand here. Oh man, criminally low APM right here for the green commander. Just watching units being blasted apart right now. Those T3 units should have been able to win this game, and the fact that they are essentially just wasted standing around really hurts to see. Air units in a big old fight right now for the tank commander. And doing a great job of blasting apart this air wall. This northern lane is going to become ridiculous here as soon as the Xeon starts to send some troops forward in that direction. We do have more economy growing in the backline here as well. Important to keep it scaling. We've got the APHISes coming up. We've got the E-converters coming up. At this point, the economy is big enough that we can just afford expansion and production at the same time. Obviously, either or would be faster without the other, but if you're doing both, it guarantees you a spot in the late game. Orange Commander, out of constructors. Marauders, maybe finally making their way across the map. It feels like forever that Marauders have been on the table right here, and so late into the game are we finally seeing them able to do any damage. Marauder are similar actually to Gunslingers, I want to say, in the way that they are useful. They're very effective against T2 and T1, so if you can use them to catch the opponent off guard with a surprise T3 transition, probably the most effective way to utilize them. Oh, we're gonna send some more air units in. Oh, beautiful. We're gonna send a whole nother batch of air units clumped up together. The flak turret's having a field day right there. We're trying to kill them with our corpses right here as we send a whole bunch more bombers directly into those flak turrets. Oh my goodness. There's an entire open area up on this northern side. Looks like a Xeon has realized it here. We're gonna include a bunch of fighters with this bombing run here and start sending it all towards the other side of the map. Some long-range anti-air towers do help with the defense here a little bit. Gonna start shooting down as many of those bombers as they can, but at the end of the day, those things are essentially meant for big single targets. They're good against dragons, they're good against atomic bombers, that sort of thing, but at the end of the day, not gonna be so fabulous against a big bomber wave. That being said, air defenses, raw air defense fighter firepower from Robot Robert, going to be sufficient here to deflect all that in accompaniment here from the Purple Commander, who has managed to claw themselves back into this game quite nicely, I will say. Man, the red team has every right to go win this game right now, and just has not taken it. But it feels like the blue team has as well. Yeah, I mean, we have T3 units marching across now from Reed Sweep. I will say one thing of note is that the red team is now lower on APM, just overall their APM, their team APM is lower just because multiple of their players have quit, despite having an advantage for basically the entire game. Losing your players means there's only so many hands to go around, right? Despite what it may look like, especially watching some of the pros, despite what it may look like, they do not play with their feet, they only have two hands. They only play so fast, they are human after all. Karganath in the backline, oh no. Hornets are a decent solution to this actually. This is dangerous. Oh no, Karganath have found the backline. They found the air player's base. E-converters pop. Oh, this is a nightmare. Just the right unit at just the right spot and at just the right time manages to find its way into the backline here. Going to target fire down the APHIS. It's a matter of getting it killed before we get blasted apart by those Hornets here. Gotta keep moving. Oh, the Arbiters! Oh, the Arbiters saved the day! Oh no, pardon me, not Arbiters, the Ambassadors here. Saved the day. Wow, that was about as close as it gets. 11% left. That means 4 more rockets, 4 or 5 more rockets from that Karganath would have killed this advanced fusion reactor here. I can't believe the Arbiters of all, pardon me, the Ambassadors of all things were the ones to save the day right there. My goodness. 3 p.m. has got to be quaking in their boots. There's no way that Karganath getting into their backline doesn't have them a little bit concerned about their safety here. APHISes have continued to build, and our yellow commander has continued to scale. You can see going from 200 to 270 metal. That'll only continue to soar here as we continue to invest in economy. I'm just dying for somebody to go across the map and finish this match. It feels like we've had the potential for a good long while. We have so many of these gunslingers still up and running. I think this queue was probably set up by the red commander, Jawsbunch, and then was just left on by the maroon commander when he took over the base right here. Yeah, I mean, we're spamming out spy bots, gunslingers, and sharpshooters. Really weird composition to be going for. The sharpshooters make sense. The gunslingers don't, and the spy bots, while nice to have, definitely don't necessarily always equate to an effective trade. Nuke across the map. Boom goes the nuke in the Maroon Commander's base. Well, that's one way to come back into it. Maroon Commander wiped off the face of the Earth by a thermonuclear explosion, forgetting their anti-nuke. I can sympathize deeply as their base turns into a radioactive pit in the ground, no longer fit for robo living. A bunch of resbots still survive, though. There is a path back into this game, and it's via the resbot. Maroon Commander is still with 16,000 energy. Oh, yeah, right, from this facility. Okay, well, be that as it is, I guess best Matt NA not going to be too miffed about losing that facility. That was kind of his, you know, his vacation facility, his vacation base. It's where he went when he didn't want to have to really think about invading the enemy or anything like that. He would just go there and, you know, have fun. Vanguard's coming up right here. 2 Titans to spearhead this offensive right here, and I think we're set to go. Razorback's great for clearing away the spam that might try and take down a Titan, but Titan's, of course, great for punching through those heavier defenses, the pulsars, the bulwarks, sharpshooter spam, all that sort of stuff. Well, you know what? Tack enough onto any T3 unit, it'll go down. Gunslingers, Razorbacks, Thors, all the rest of it included. Go, go, go. EMP missile. Charged and ready. Well within range right here. If we fire this EMP missile and manage to connect it with any portion of this, I think we're going to be in a great spot. This is the frustration of fighting Sheldon, though, is just the fact that they're so good at kiting backwards like this. Demons, meanwhile, taking advantage of that route that they discovered from the Karganeth. A little bit of good old-fashioned Cortex info share. Nuclear bombers in the air. There we go. Valid solution to demons. They have relatively low HP. They do have a little bit of an anti-air attack, but nuclear bombers are pretty sturdy. Okay, most of them down. One more left standing. 7% HP. Last nuclear bomber does manage to bring it down. My goodness. I can tell you right now, 3 PM has got to be breathing heavily right now. Hoping and praying and quaking in his boots. Oh, one more demon. The final demon. Still standing. It takes, what is it, four or five shots from the... Oh no, 4 or 5 shots from the from the nuclear bombers. Demon gets into the line, pops the APHIS, pops the others as well. Boom goes the Tan Commander's base, and a huge chunk of the build power right here for best Matt NA. Really starting to get me tripped up now. Razorbacks eventually broke this line. Well, kind of. They broke the line, but it cost them their lives right here. Depositing their metal husks onto the enemy's front door. Fusion reactor pops. It's always nice. E-converters, E-storages, all that sort of stuff going down. Big old wave of gunships headed forward here as well. If we manage to split up the gunships and jump on top of these AA towers, I think they could work. If we could otherwise just neglect to push directly into them, I think that could work fabulously as well. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Nuke in the air, headed directly towards the Tan Commander's base. Oh no! Beautiful explosion on that nuclear missile. Takes out the entire base of 3 PM. Don't tell me. Don't tell me the blue team manages to pull back into this one. That is hilarious. Oh, you know, I just realized these gunships are actually on the same team as those anti-air defenses, so good for them, actually. Maintaining their distance within friendly anti-air. That's a good strategy, actually. Just like that, the blue team closes the distance. I mean, we are now less than 200 metal away from each other as far as economies go. We've given them so much time to get back into this game. Hold on, I just want to really quickly, while we're in this match right now. If we go to the statistics panel, we can see metal produced 1.13 million versus 1.56 million. Nearly 400,000 metal more for the red team has been produced, sent out, died, and wasted. And the blue team is eager to take advantage of that, despite inefficiencies all over the place on the map. You know, T3 units sent to their demise prematurely. I guess it doesn't matter. It's a waste off. It's who can send more metal to their doom. over the other one. What a strange way this match has turned out here. Continuing to scale the ecos, always difficult to do. We've seen a little bit of eco growth over here for the Brown Commander. Continuing to build more and more of those aphises here. I think we need to double down and just go for a whole bunch more of them, though. At some point, you hit a point in your eco scaling. Actually, yeah, you can see the Brown Commander struggling to actually spend the metal here. Producing 300 metal a second and unable to even spend most of it. Nice EMP right there. Yeah, EMP Bomber's having zip, zilch, zero, nada effect on the Thor super heavy Omega Lightning tank. Terminator tank, that's the word. Just trying to think of the right word for that tank. It's got a unique classifier as the Terminator tank. Give me your clothes and your motorcycle and your EMP missile. Boy, those movies got complex, didn't they? Just trying to think of the plot of the last Terminator movie, and I can't even remember if I saw it or not. Something about going back in time again. Back to the lab again. Yep, air player knocked out. Yellow Commander was trying to get into the air and did manage to get into the air eventually here, but there's only so much you can do when you're going up 2 against 1. Fighters spot the aphises here for the Maroon Commander. E-converters first. Oh, no, going straight for the aphises. All right. Probably have enough gunships here to just go ahead and do it. Aphis goes, taking it all with him. Oh my goodness, the Maroon Commander falls as the air forces are insufficient to shoot down those gunships. Meaning just like that, another base has been wiped off the face of the red team's entire contested area of this map. I cannot believe it. I'm at a loss for words for how this match has ended up. We have the Razorbacks and the Vanguards finally moving forward in unison right here. Nuke collides with the mountain range over on this side. A little bit of a problem with the nuclear pathing, I suppose, but anyways. Not that it matters all too much right here. Reed Sweet walking the commander forward over on this side. Happy to just D-gun down whatever he can. Maybe trying to take out Camelo Tactico's commander over here as well. Hoping to. Yeah, Camelo standing in the way right here. That's funny. Oh, not standing in the way quite enough. Ah, not aware apparently of the fact that, yeah, D-guns no longer kill commanders. Camelo Tactico. That might explain it. Maybe a player that has rejoined bar after a good long while here. Knows how to eco scale, but not particularly aware of all the new meta intricacies. Those Razorbacks didn't manage to do it. My goodness. After a hard fought, on the side of the blue team anyways, a hard fought battle here. Eventually it will be the blue team who, despite suffering tremendous losses, egregious wastes of metal, and being down on economy for essentially the entire match, managed to, one by one, pick off the bases and swing the game back into their favor. I have no words for how this match ended up turning out. What a spectacular show of force, and an excellent clutch of the defeat right here from the red team, who had every right to win that game, and somehow managed not to. Thanks a ton for watching if you made it to the end of this one. I'll give you an extra second to take a look at these statistics right here, because my goodness, these graphs are going to be incredible. Yeah, you can see the eco scaling for everyone on the red team was higher except for Reed Sweet, who managed to be a contender in there for a good long while. But eventually, units on the field made the difference right here and managed to swing this game. My goodness, 1.29 versus 1.71, and the blue team still won. What a crazy match beyond all reason.